There are money lessons you don't learn from books. You learn them from the people you once called your best friends. My name is Jordan. I'm 34, living in Chicago. I'm not rich. I'm not chasing some flashy millionaire dream. I just want to live enough and live right after years of grinding through the cold. Indifferent city life. Caleb was like a brother to me. We grew up together in a small town in Iowa. The kind of place where winters drag on forever and big dreams are crammed into cheap cups of hot coffee. We scraped through our 20s side by side, splitting the last pack of ramen more times than I can count. There was even a time he crashed on my couch for almost a year, unemployed. Broke, and out of options. I never asked for a dime. I believed that friendship shouldn't come with a price tag. I still remember the look in his eyes the day I told him I'd inherited $80 from my grandfather. A quiet, no-nonsense man who once made me mow lawns with him at 13 to teach me the value of a dollar. Caleb hugged me tight, smiled, and said, "We made it, Jordan. Remember the coffee shop dream from college?" I believed him. I believed in the memories we built, in the hug that felt real, in the word, we. And I was wrong. It was March, and the last of the snow had just melted in Chicago. I remember it clearly. Caleb showed up one damp afternoon with a crumpled sketch in his hand, a rough layout of a coffee shop he wanted to call Common Grounds. A name we used to joke about back in college, because we both started from the ground, he'd say with a grin. I laughed, but Caleb, he was more excited than I'd ever seen him. "Jordan, we don't need anything fancy. Just a small space, a few wooden tables, warm lighting. We roast our own beans, bake our own stuff. This neighborhood's missing something like that, for real." He said it with the same fire I remembered from when he was 21. The day he dropped out of school to chase music. Passionate, naive, but real. I asked him, "You sure about this? Running a business isn't easy." He smiled, completely confident. "With you and me, all we need is a shot. And now, you've got it, Jay." He knew I'd say yes. 3 days later, we signed a simple agreement. Caleb would be the legal owner. Because according to him, paperwork, legal stuff, you've always hated that. Let me handle it. As for me, the guy funding it, I didn't even have my name on anything. Once it's up and running, we'll shift it over. It's just paperwork. Trust me, I didn't consult a lawyer. Didn't ask for contracts. Didn't protect myself. Because to me, Caleb wasn't just anyone. For a few weeks, it felt like a dream. We scouted locations, picked out espresso machines, mocked up logo designs. Caleb even put a deposit down on a spot in Logan Square. He seemed fully in it, making calls, negotiating, hustling. I wired the money in chunks, $5, then $10, then $20. Each time, he texted, "Thanks, brother, we're getting so close." I started picturing the life ahead. Greeting regulars in the morning. Reading books in the quiet aroma of coffee every afternoon. Most of all, finally doing something meaningful with Caleb. What I didn't know was that Caleb was saying the exact same things to someone else. For a different, joint venture. I was just one piece in a game he was playing. But I didn't see it. I was too busy drafting mock menus, thinking about vintage pendant lights, wondering if our signature pastry should be croissants or banana bread. I was dreaming, while someone else was calculating exactly when I would fall apart. Things started to change, slowly, quietly. At first, Caleb's replies got slower. Texts came hours later. Calls went unanswered. When I did hear back, it was always, "Sorry, man, was in a meeting with the supplier." Then he began missing appointments, the same ones he used to schedule himself. I didn't suspect anything. I told myself, he's probably just swamped. Opening a shop isn't a walk in the park. So I kept sending money. The last transfer was $25 for equipment deposits and licensing fees. I remember sitting at our usual coffee spot, watching the words, "Transaction completed," pop up on my phone. I smiled. That's it. We're opening next month. But that month never came. A week after the transfer, Caleb went completely silent. No replies. Calls went straight to a disconnected message. I drove to the storefront we had once stood in for 2 hours debating tile colors, and found a "for lease" sign in the window. Something snapped in my chest. I went to Caleb's apartment, the one filled with sketches and espresso machine catalogs. He was gone. The building manager said he moved out last week. I sat on the stairwell outside, palms sweating, heart pounding, my brain spiraling. What the hell is happening? Where did Caleb go? What about the shop? I called the broker, the one who showed us the space. They said Caleb canceled everything at the beginning of the month. No lease, no payments, just a few emails, a couple of walk-throughs. And then, nothing. It felt like I got punched in the gut. I drove straight to the bank and requested a trace on the transfers. Everything checked out. I had willingly sent the funds. No coercion, no fraud on paper. The account belonged to Caleb Morris. Closed. The police said, "There's no clear evidence of fraud. You transferred the money voluntarily. This is a civil dispute." The lawyer added, "You can sue, sure, but there's no written agreement naming you as a partner. You're what we call an undocumented investor. It'll be hard, very hard." I sat in front of the mirror that night, staring at the reflection of a man I barely recognized. 34 years old, minus $80 gone. Money his grandfather had left behind. No paperwork, no partner, no witnesses, no friend, just the truth. Raw, bitter. Caleb, the man I once called brother, had planned it all. The mock-ups, the coffee meetings, even the hug the day I told him about the inheritance. It was all a performance. And I, foolish, trusting, was the only one in the audience who didn't know it was a show. I didn't sleep for 17 nights. Every morning, I stared at the ceiling, hoping, just hoping, that it was all a nightmare. That Caleb would call and say it was just a misunderstanding. That the money was still there. That the coffee shop was still happening. But the phone never rang. No one knocked, and my account stayed empty, like the trust that had been drained from my body. I didn't tell my mom. Didn't tell anyone. I was ashamed, not just because I lost the money, but because I had put so much faith in someone without ever asking for proof. I cut everyone off, disappeared from social media, stopped going to work. It felt like I hadn't just lost money, I had lost part of who I was. I started to question everything. Was I stupid? Was I too trusting? Did I deserve to be betrayed? Those questions played on repeat like the soundtrack of some forgotten film no one wants to watch anymore. Then one rainy, gray afternoon in June, I stumbled across my grandfather's old cassette recorder. He used to record his monthly financial journals on it. He didn't like writing things down. I pressed play. His voice crackled through the tape. Worn but firm. Never give money to someone if you've never seen them save $1 of their own. I just sat there, still, memories flooding back. Grandpa checking every receipt like it held a secret. Always refusing to lend money without a written agreement. Always reminding me, money's not the enemy. But unclear people, they'll ruin you. That night, I started writing everything down. Not to sue Caleb. I knew I'd never get the money back. But to learn, to rebuild. I started reading about contracts, liability, and how financial fraud happens between friends. I began saving again, just $300 a month. But it was mine. I went back to work, took a basic personal finance class. I met with a financial advisor, not to invest, but to learn how to protect myself from myself. Most importantly, I learned how to draw clear boundaries, even with the people who'd once slept on my couch. 3 years later, I never saw Caleb again. I heard he's in Florida now, running some new business. Maybe it's another, common grounds, with another victim. But I don't feel angry anymore. Because without that betrayal, I might have never woken up. I might have kept living with my heart first, my eyes closed, believing that friendship was immune to money. I'm not naive anymore, but I'm not bitter either. I grew up, The hard way. But I grew. I still drink coffee every morning. Not in a shop of my own. Not under golden lights with soft jazz playing in the background, like I once dreamed, but in a quiet, familiar corner, with a budgeting notebook by my side, and a quiet sense of gratitude. Because now I understand, not everyone who walks with you through hard times is meant to stand beside you when things get better. Not everyone who shared a bowl of ramen with you has the decency not to chew through your trust. 2. Caleb is gone from my life. But that $80 debt, instead of breaking me, became the most expensive and most worthwhile tuition I've ever paid. I learned that true friendship doesn't fear black and white contracts. Trust doesn't mean you have to be careless. And any relationship involving money needs clear boundaries. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm just grateful that Caleb taught me that lesson while I was still young enough to start over. I no longer call someone brother if they're not willing to share responsibility. Not just profit. I know how to say no. I know how to walk away from vague deals. And above all, I'm no longer afraid to set terms. Not because I don't trust, but because I've learned to respect myself. And today, if someone asks me, would you want your $80 back? I'd say, no, I got myself back, and that's worth far more.